One of the big controversies about this event was the date, the 47th anniversary of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. You say it was a coincidence, but you also say it was divine providence because you wanted to reclaim the civil rights movement. Reclaim from whom? Reclaim from what?
How about who is reclaiming? People of faith. Reclaiming from politics. I've read headline after headline after headline this week that the damage that I have done to racial politics. My gosh, who thinks racial politics? Who's typing that out and saying, yes, the damage that has been to racial politics, and thinks that's a good thing? Race should not be in politics. Race is a negative that is a heart condition, quite honestly. And the people that, and I got a lot of heat this week from people saying, oh, you're saying that you were part of the civil. I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born. I lived in the Pacific Northwest. I can't even begin to relate, but I can understand it intellectually, and I can also begin to understand it in the heart when you see justice not done. We're seeing justice perverted on both sides for a very long time. Reclaim the civil rights, meaning people of faith that look at equal justice and look at every man the same. That's who needs to reclaim it. Not the politicians, not the parties, not white people or black people.
But Glenn,
people of faith.
But Glenn, the civil rights movement always had an agenda beyond just equality, beyond just, quote, justice. The full name of the march 47 years ago was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. One of the speakers at the event was a labor leader, A. Philip Randolph, who talked about the injustice of people who live in poverty. John Lewis, then a student, now a congressman, said this at the event: we need a bill that will ensure the equality of a maid who earns $5 a week in the home of a family whose total income is $100,000 a year. The civil rights movement was always about an economic agenda.
Well, you know what, Chris? I think that is part of it, but that's a part of it that I don't agree with. I think the bigger part, the thing that we fail to recognize is the racial politics. The real agenda should be equal justice, an equal shot. The dream was judge a man by the content of his character, not the color of his skin. That's something that everybody can take part in. And I don't know if we've actually done that. We're certainly not doing that now with the Justice Department. When you look at somebody, the Black Panthers, and they are standing at the doorway, African Americans who experience that themselves should be equally outraged. And when you see that happening in a community and somebody is intimidating black voters, you should be equally outraged. Those are the main principles. Now, how we govern, let
me ask you about that, though, because Martin Luther King was assassinated when he was leading the Poor People's Campaign. He advocated what he called an economic Bill of Rights, guaranteeing everyone a job. I mean, you may say, well, that's not your civil rights movement, but it was Martin Luther King's. Well,
I'm not Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King would have to stand for Martin Luther King. Let his words stand where they are. What I'm talking about is, and look, Chris, I didn't intentionally put it on 828. The message is about God and faith. The message that I gave on the steps today was that you need to stand for those things that are right and empower the individual. Believe in the power of one person. Don't believe that you can't do it. Everybody wants a shot. That we can all agree on. Beyond that, it becomes politics. I'm not talking politics.
This is, I guess, as good a time as any to go back to what you said about President Obama last year, which in the coverage of this has been played over and over again. Let's watch it, and I'll talk to you after we hear it.
This president, I think, has exposed himself as a guy over and over and over again who has a deep-seated hatred for white people or the white culture. I don't know what it is. This guy is, I believe, a racist.
Question. After that, do you have any credibility talking about reclaiming the civil rights movement?
Okay. Let me go over this again on the reclaiming the civil rights movement. People of faith that believe that you have an equal right to justice. That is the essence, and if it's not the essence, then we've been sold a pack of lies. The essence is everyone deserves a shot. The content of character, not the color of skin. Now, when I've addressed this comment a million times, and in fact I think I amended it this week, that what I didn't understand at the time was the influences on President Obama. And you know, the white culture. Read his own books. He writes about the white culture and how he struggled with it, etc., etc. But I didn't understand really his theology. His viewpoints come from liberation theology. That's what I think, at the gut level, I was sensing, and I miscast it as racism. And really, what it is liberation theology. Do you? I know you've said it, but I mean, do you? And in this context, in this forum, do you regret having called him a racist and saying he had a deep-seated hatred for white people? Of course I do. I don't want to retract the. I want to amend that. I think it is much more of a theological question, that he is a guy who understands the world through liberation theology, which is oppressor and victim. Racist was, first of all, it shouldn't have been said. It was poorly said. I have a big fat mouth sometimes, and I say things, and that's just not the way people should behave. And it was not accurate. It is liberation theology that has shaped his worldview.